Your motorcycle isn't falling apart, it's leaking power, quietly, slowly, and if you ignore it, you'll lose performance, oil pressure, and eventually the engine itself. But one simple fix can stop the damage cold. This step takes 5 minutes, costs almost nothing, and could save your bike's entire future. Replace your air filter. If your motorcycle has been feeling sluggish, struggling to accelerate, or burning through fuel faster than it should, the problem might be as simple and as critical as a clogged air filter. Over time, every bike, especially those with high mileage, accumulates dust, pollen, road grime, and other airborne contaminants that eventually choke the air filter. Once that filter gets restricted, your engine's entire air-fuel balance is thrown off. And when a combustion engine doesn't get enough air, it can't breathe, meaning you lose horsepower, torque, and fuel efficiency all in one shot. Most riders forget this basic maintenance task because it feels too simple to matter, but ignoring it can cost you real performance. A clean air filter ensures that the engine breathes freely and maintains the proper air-to-fuel ratio. When it's dirty, your bike runs rich, dumping too much fuel in and not burning it efficiently. That leads to carbon deposits, weak throttle response, hesitation when you twist the grip, and in more severe cases, complete misfires. It is one of the easiest things to replace, but many bikers wait until symptoms get bad. By then, they're already losing power and fuel range on every ride. Typically, you should replace your air filter every 15,000 to 30,000 miles, depending on riding conditions. If you ride in dusty areas, or if you're clocking high mileage year after year, err on the side of caution and change it sooner. And here's the thing, if you're riding a Harley with a V-twin engine that already runs hot and rich from the factory, a clogged filter only makes it worse. Now let's talk about how to actually do it. First, locate your air cleaner housing. On most Harley models, especially the Touring and Softail variants, it's mounted to the side of the engine and usually sealed with a chrome or black plastic cover held together by a few bolts. Use a simple socket wrench or screwdriver to remove the housing. Once the cover is off, you'll see the air filter inside, often a round or oval-shaped component made of paper, cotton, or synthetic fiber. Pull it out and inspect it in a well-lit area. If it's visibly dirty, discolored, or coated in debris, it's time for a replacement. Do not try to wash a paper air filter. If it's a reusable cotton or foam one, follow the manufacturer's cleaning procedure using the appropriate cleaner and oil. But for most stock Harley filters, replacing it with a new one is the most reliable option. When installing the new filter, make sure it seats flush inside the housing. A loose or misaligned filter lets unfiltered air bypass the element, which can do more harm than good. Reattach the housing, torque the bolts to spec, and you're done. The entire job takes about 15 minutes, and the difference in ride quality is often immediate. Expect crisper throttle response, smoother idling, and improved fuel mileage. In terms of cost, a good replacement air filter will typically set you back between $25 and $60, depending on the make and whether you opt for a stock part or a performance upgrade like a high-flow K and N. That's a small price to pay for keeping your engine breathing clean and clear, but if your bike still feels like it's wheezing for air, the real culprit might be hiding just a few inches away. If you trust the way we break this down, trust the products list too. It's all in the description. Clean the mass airflow sensor or manifold absolute pressure sensor. Most riders think of air filters and oil changes when they consider engine performance, but airflow sensors are just as critical and often neglected. Not every motorcycle is equipped with a mass airflow sensor, but those that are depend on it to calculate the exact amount of air entering the intake system. This information is essential for the engine control unit to determine the correct fuel-to-air ratio. If your bike uses a manifold absolute pressure sensor instead, the function is similar, measuring pressure rather than direct airflow, but still playing a vital role in efficient combustion. Over time, these sensors collect fine dust, oily residue, and carbon particles, especially in high-mileage motorcycles. A contaminated sensor starts to deliver inaccurate readings, which leads to poor combustion, sluggish throttle response, and uneven idling. Riders might also experience reduced fuel efficiency or unexpected surges during acceleration. In more serious cases, a dirty airflow sensor can trigger a check engine light or cause stalling, especially when the engine is cold. To begin, locate the sensor. On most motorcycles, the mass airflow sensor is found between the air filter housing and the throttle body. In some designs, especially those using a manifold absolute pressure sensor, it might be mounted directly on the intake manifold or within the airbox itself. It typically has an electrical plug and a small mounting bracket or 2 screws holding it in place. Refer to your bike's service manual if you are unsure where to find it. Start the process by ensuring the motorcycle is turned off and the key is removed from the ignition. Disconnect the negative terminal of the battery to prevent any accidental electrical shorts. Next, unplug the sensor connector by gently releasing the locking tab and pulling it free. Then, using the appropriate screwdriver, usually a Phillips or Torx, unscrew the mounting bolts and carefully remove the sensor from its housing. You will notice a small probe or thin wire inside the sensor. This is the hot wire or hot film element that directly measures airflow. Do not touch this wire. It is extremely delicate and can be damaged by even the softest brush or swab. Instead, use a mass airflow sensor cleaner, not throttle body cleaner, carburetor cleaner, or brake cleaner, as those can leave residue or damage the sensor. Spray the cleaner liberally onto the sensing element. Most instructions recommend 10 to 15 bursts to thoroughly clean all debris and oil from the sensor. Do not attempt to wipe or scrub. Simply allow the solvent to do its job. After spraying, set the sensor aside on a clean cloth and let it air dry naturally. Do not use compressed air, a cloth, or even a cotton swab to speed up the drying process. The sensor must be completely dry before reinstallation to prevent short circuits or inaccurate readings. This entire process usually takes around 15 minutes, but it is crucial to be patient. Reinstall the sensor once it is dry by reversing the steps. Secure the bolts, reconnect the wiring harness, and reattach the battery terminal. Cleaning the airflow sensor once every 12,000 to 15,000 miles can dramatically improve engine smoothness, throttle response, and fuel economy. Many riders report a noticeable improvement in power delivery and cold starts within the first few miles of riding after cleaning the sensor. Now that your bike is breathing clean and measuring air precisely, it's time to address the next major airflow bottleneck, one that's often carbon-coated and completely forgotten. We dug into real rider forums, tech manuals, and mechanic interviews to build this list. So if it's helping you keep your bike running stronger, hit that like button and tell us in the comments what worked for you. Clean the throttle body. If your motorcycle feels like it hesitates when you twist the throttle or idles like it just rolled out of a barn, chances are your throttle body is choking on carbon buildup. This is one of the most overlooked causes of poor performance in older bikes. Over time, carbon accumulates around the butterfly valve inside the throttle body, creating friction that restricts airflow and confuses the engine control system. The result? Throttle delay, inconsistent idling, lower fuel efficiency, and the kind of sluggish power delivery that makes even the lightest ride feel like a workout. Before you begin, make sure the engine is off and has cooled down. Disconnect the battery by removing the negative terminal. This step is crucial to prevent triggering warning lights on your dash or causing electrical faults when unplugging sensors near the throttle body. Safety comes first, both for you and for your bike's electronic systems. The throttle body is usually located between the air intake hose and the intake manifold. On most Harley-Davidson models, it will be directly behind the air cleaner assembly. You may need to remove the air cleaner cover and possibly a decorative cover or beauty panel, depending on your bike's setup. Use your screwdriver or socket set to loosen the intake hose clamps and gently disconnect the hose. Make sure to mark or remember the orientation so you can reconnect it properly later. Once exposed, you will see the butterfly valve, a circular metal flap that opens and closes as you twist the throttle. This is where the real work happens. Use your rag to gently wipe around the edges of the valve. You will likely see thick black soot, which is the carbon buildup interfering with airflow. If your bike uses a cable-operated throttle, you can gently push open the valve with your fingers. If it has an electronic throttle, do not force it open manually. Instead, have someone turn the ignition key without starting the engine and gently twist the throttle to open the valve electronically. Be extremely cautious not to spray cleaner on any sensors around the throttle body. Always spray onto your rag or into the housing carefully and avoid electrical components. Spray a small amount of throttle body cleaner directly onto the butterfly valve and surrounding walls. Let it sit for about 10 seconds, allowing the solvent to break down the carbon deposits. Use your toothbrush or rag to scrub away the buildup. Repeat the process as needed until the valve and interior walls are visibly clean and free of residue. The cloth should come away clean when you wipe. This step might take a few passes, especially if the bike has been neglected or sat unused for a while. Once cleaned, let the throttle body air dry completely before reassembling anything. Do not use compressed air, a towel, or even a cotton swab inside the valve. It is delicate, and even the smallest fiber could damage its operation. Just let time and open airflow do the work. After the throttle body is dry, reattach the intake hose securely, double-check that all clamps are tight, and reconnect the battery. Start your bike and let it idle for a few minutes. You may notice a slightly rough idle at first as the system relearns its airflow parameters, but within a few minutes it should settle into a smoother rhythm. Now that your airflow is back to factory fresh, let's tackle what's going on inside the engine itself. Change your engine oil, but do it the right way. If your motorcycle feels sluggish, sounds louder than usual, or has trouble starting on cold mornings, the problem might not be mechanical. It could be your oil, and it might be doing more harm than good. For older bikes, especially those with high mileage, oil changes are not just routine maintenance. They are a critical line of defense against permanent engine damage. Unlike new engines that can go longer between oil changes, older V-twin motors and air-cooled engines demand more frequent care. Ignoring this can lead to overheating, power loss, metal shavings in your filter, or even a total engine failure. The first thing every rider should understand is that oil in a high-mileage bike breaks down faster. It loses viscosity, traps more contaminants, and no longer provides the same thermal protection or lubrication. That's why the standard oil change interval of every 7,500 miles does not apply here. Once your bike crosses the 20,000-mile mark or is more than 10 years old, you should be changing your oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, no matter what your manual says. But it's not just about frequency, it's about using the right type of oil. A lot of riders still go with cheap conventional oil because it's affordable and familiar. That might work for short trips or small displacement commuter bikes, but if you're running a V-twin or a touring bike that heats up on long rides, conventional oil will break down fast and leave your engine unprotected. Synthetic oil, though more expensive up front, lasts longer, handles heat better, and provides superior protection in high rev and high load conditions. If your motorcycle is equipped with a turbocharger or runs especially hot, like some performance-focused Harleys or Indian models, using anything other than synthetic can slowly damage your engine's internals. Also consider oil viscosity. Many older bikes call for thicker oil like 2050, but riders who switch to thinner oils thinking it improves fuel economy or reduces drag often end up with leaks or oil starvation. When your engine was engineered for a specific viscosity, changing it can mean lower pressure, incomplete film coverage, and metal-on-metal contact inside the crankcase. Now let's talk about doing the job right. First, make sure the engine is warm before draining. It allows the old oil to flow out completely and carry any contaminants with it. Drain the oil from the bottom plug and replace the crush washer every time. Don't reuse the old filter, no matter how clean it looks. Install a new oil filter that meets the specifications for your engine. Always torque the filter and drain plug properly. Don't over-tighten. Once filled, idle the bike for a few minutes to circulate the oil. Then shut it off and wait 5 minutes before checking the level. Top off if needed, and always inspect for leaks before you ride. The benefits of a proper oil change go beyond just preventing engine wear. Riders often report smoother shifting, quicker throttle response, less valve noise, and even a drop in operating temperatures, especially when switching from conventional to synthetic oil. This simple job can dramatically extend the life of your engine, preserve your fuel economy, and give you the peace of mind to ride farther, harder, and longer. But even with fresh oil, the job isn't done yet. Power can't move without fuel, and if your system's dirty, you're choking your engine before it even gets going. So let's clean where the fuel flows. Clean the fuel system with additives. A sluggish bike doesn't always mean your engine is failing. In many cases, it's simply a matter of buildup, layers of carbon and gunk forming inside the fuel system, robbing your motorcycle of its full potential. That includes clogged fuel injectors, sticky intake valves, and inefficient combustion, especially if your fuel quality hasn't been top shelf. Over time, especially on bikes that sit for long periods or run on low-octane gas, this buildup hardens. What happens next? Hesitation when you twist the throttle, uneven idling, and a steep drop in both fuel economy and power. Luckily, there's a fix that doesn't involve tearing the engine apart or hauling the bike to a mechanic, using a trusted fuel system cleaning additive. Among riders and mechanics alike, two names consistently come up: Seafoam and Techron, Concentrate Plus. These aren't gimmicks or quick-fix bottles you find on a discount shelf. These are well-tested, proven chemical blends designed to clean internal fuel components from the inside out. Seafoam has been around for decades, trusted by generations of American riders. It dissolves stubborn deposits throughout the fuel system, lubricates upper cylinders, and stabilizes fuel for longer storage. Techron, on the other hand, is known for its precision in targeting injector clogging and combustion chamber residue, making it a favorite in performance circles and often used by major manufacturers. Using a fuel system cleaner is as straightforward as it gets, and once you do it once, it becomes second nature. Here's how to do it properly for maximum results. First, ride your bike until the fuel level drops close to empty, ideally with less than a gallon left in the tank. This concentrates the cleaner during the next refueling and ensures optimal contact with deposits. Then pour the entire bottle of your chosen additive directly into the gas tank. For most motorcycles, a full bottle treats up to 5 gallons, so you're well within the limits for most cruisers and touring models. Next, fill the tank with fresh fuel, preferably premium, especially if you usually run regular. After that, ride your bike gently for at least 50 to 100 miles. This gives the additive time to circulate through the fuel system and begin breaking down contaminants. You may start to notice changes within the first 30 miles, a smoother idle, sharper throttle response, and even better fuel economy by the end of the tank. The real benefit, though, comes in the long term. By keeping your injectors clean and your valves carbon-free, you reduce stress on the engine and improve overall combustion efficiency. That means fewer hard starts, less knocking, and better performance across the board. For older bikes with carburetors, Seafoam also helps dissolve varnish and residue in float bowls and jets, a common cause of hesitation and stalling. It's one of the few maintenance steps that takes under 5 minutes and has a direct measurable impact. With regular use, every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, depending on your riding habits, fuel additives can extend the life of your engine, reduce emissions, and prevent more costly repairs down the road. Think of it as insurance for your fuel system, but at a fraction of the cost of a teardown. Even the best fuel won't fix a misfire if your spark is weak. That brings us to the real ignition fix. Replace your spark plugs and ignition coil. If your bike feels like it's struggling to come alive each morning, surging under throttle, or just doesn't sound as clean and crisp as it used to, there's a good chance your spark plugs and ignition system are quietly failing in the background. This isn't just about smoother starts, it's about restoring power, torque, and throttle response that's been lost over the years. And here's the kicker. This is one of the most affordable fixes that delivers one of the biggest returns in performance. Over time, spark plugs wear down. Their tips degrade, the electrode gaps widen, and when that happens, combustion efficiency drops like a rock. Instead of clean, sharp ignition, you get partial burns, engine knocking, rough idling, delayed starts, and, you guessed it, power loss. The plug might still fire, but it won't do the job properly. Combine that with an aging ignition coil, and you've got a bike that misfires under load and bogs down right when you need it to come alive. Let's get specific. The standard V-twin on many Harley-Davidson models, like the Street Glide, typically puts out anywhere from 80 to 95 horsepower and 110 to 120 pound-feet of torque, with engine displacements in the range of 1,575 to 1,800 cubic centimeters. With bad plugs, you're not just underperforming, you're underfiring. That means wasted torque, a sluggish throttle, and constant strain on the starter and battery. To fix it, start by removing the spark plugs using a spark plug socket with a rubber insert. Make sure the engine is completely cold before beginning. Once removed, inspect the electrode for fouling, oil, or excessive wear. If the tip is rounded or caked in black carbon deposits, it's long past due for replacement. Check the plug gap using a wire gauge. Your owner's manual will specify the correct gap, usually around 0.04 inches, but never assume they're gapped correctly out of the box. Now here's where the coil comes in. Some Harleys still use traditional external coils with plug wires, but many modern models use coil-on-plug systems. That means the coil sits directly on top of the spark plug. No wires, no routing. If your bike is hard to start when hot, misfires under load, or surges at steady throttle, that coil might be failing. Swapping it out can feel like lifting a blanket off the motor. Installation is straightforward. Just reverse the steps. Torque the plugs to spec using a torque wrench. Over-tightening can crack the ceramic insulator or damage the threads. Under-tightening causes weak grounding and poor ignition. And always use dielectric grease on the coil boots to prevent moisture intrusion and ease future removal. This fix doesn't require special tools, just patience, a few hand tools, and an understanding of your bike's firing system. The impact, though, is immediate. Smoother acceleration, snappier throttle, cleaner idle. And if you've been running too rich because of misfires, your fuel economy will improve almost overnight. You've just restored the heart, lungs, and brain of your motorcycle, but if you skip the next step, all your work might still leak away. Because no matter how strong the engine runs, it won't last long if it's slowly bleeding from the inside. Plug oil leaks and reseal aging components. There's one thing every rider dreads and most ignore. It's not a broken chain or a dead battery, it's oil leaks. Small, silent, and easy to overlook, oil leaks are one of the most destructive problems for any V-twin motorcycle engine. They don't just stain your garage floor, they steal power, lower compression, increase engine temperatures, and shorten the life of your bike one ride at a time. You might not notice it at first. Maybe you see a tiny streak on the engine case or smell a faint burn after a long ride. Maybe your oil level keeps dropping a little more than it should between changes. These are not random quirks. These are early warnings that your engine seals are aging. And if you ignore them, performance will keep slipping until you're staring down a costly rebuild. Whether your motorcycle is air-cooled or liquid-cooled, an older twin cam or a newer Milwaukee 8, it relies on internal oil pressure to function properly. And once seals begin to crack, shrink, or dry out, pressure drops. You might not feel it at first, but the engine certainly does. Hotter internals, extra friction, and uneven wear follow, slowly eroding horsepower and torque without setting off any warning lights. That's where a high-mileage engine seal conditioner comes in. One of the most trusted solutions on the market is AT205 Reseal. This isn't an oil thickener or a temporary bandage. It's a professional-grade additive designed to chemically restore the elasticity of rubber seals and gaskets inside the engine. It works from the inside out, reconditioning the materials without swelling or breaking them down. Here's how you use it. First, make sure your engine oil is clean. This treatment works best when added to fresh oil, so if it's time for a change, do that first. Then, with the engine off and cool, pour the recommended amount of AT205 Reseal directly into the oil filler port. For most motorcycle engines, around 5 ounces is sufficient. Once it's in, replace the cap and start the engine. Let it idle for 15 to 20 minutes. This warms the oil and allows the seal conditioner to begin circulating throughout the crankcase, valve train, and oil galleys. As you ride over the next several hundred miles, the conditioner will penetrate dried and brittle seals, restoring flexibility and sealing power. Many riders report leaks disappearing entirely within the first 100 miles, though results vary based on the condition of the engine. While the product works internally, you should also take time to inspect the most common external leak points. Wipe a clean cloth around the valve cover gaskets, base gasket, oil pan edge, cam plate area, and timing cover. Even a thin, oily film is a sign that sealing is failing. Addressing this now can prevent a major oil loss later. Most riders ignore this step until it's too late, when oil is pouring out and compression's already gone. But if you take care of your engine from the inside, you avoid the downward spiral entirely. Because when it comes to engine life, prevention is always cheaper than repair. So here's the question: how much life is still left in your bike? Tell us in the comments what you're fixing next. And if you made it this far, subscribe, because we're not done showing you what your bike is really capable of.